what we know from the Tulsi Gabbard dump on Friday that you and I discussed earlier this week is it was done at President Obama's direction. So they included bad information. He rejected the concerns of CIA, Brennan did, CIA officers. It goes on to say that the Brennan overruled professionals on the determination that Putin aspired to help Trump, who said there's no direct evidence of this. There's none. Two officers argued to Brennan, quote, "We don't have direct information that Putin wanted to get Trump elected, and therefore the judgment that Putin was counting on Trump's victory should be removed from this ICA, or the ICA should be changed." Nonetheless, it wasn't. Then the ICA excluded evidence from a Putin confidant that said the Russian president actually didn't care who won. So they included bad information in the report based on that flimsy, unsubstantiated, outdated BS. They overruled CIA analysts who were telling them this should come out. We don't have support for this. And then they ignored contradictory evidence that would have pushed them the other way, including this. A Putin confidant, came to them and told a sensitive contact that, 1, Putin told him he did not care who won the election. 2, Putin had often outlined the weaknesses of both major candidates. And 3, Putin had asserted that in either case, quote, Russia was strategically placed to outmaneuver either one. So, I mean, all of this shows they had one mission, Matt, and one mission only. And that aspirational point that he was determined to help Trump and get Trump elected was a political hit job that they then leaked to the media immediately, as you pointed out the other day, that before the homework assignment was even completed. In other words, Obama said, go back and change your report. They had leaked to the media what the conclusion of it would be. They had one goal and one goal only, which was to undermine Trump.
Yeah, and your quoting of that expert is, and that one source is really an important moment, right? Because when I read this report, that jumped out at me. Out of all these things that they had, these fragments of emails and little bits of conversations from this and that, here they have the gold standard of intelligence, an actual human source who's a confidant of Putin. And he says, Putin doesn't care who wins. We don't think it's going to get better either way. No matter what happens, we're in a good position. That's exactly the kind of thing that you need to include in this sort of thing. You're required to include, but they did not. And so the analysts were told, it's exactly like the WMD story. There's a quote from an FBI person who says, our instructions were that anything that we had was to be used. We were to push this. They talked about the Steele material and they said including it was the right thing to do, but we were not able to verify it. This is, again, it's the same thing as the WMD business when they were told to find the sites or find the WMD sites, even when they didn't exist. And here they did exactly the same thing. They found stuff that wasn't there and they covered up the relevant good intelligence they had that contradicted their points.
How about the crazy Brennan quote in response to the Steele dossier? Yes, but doesn't it ring true? That is so damning.
It's incredibly damning, and it's even more damning when you look at his testimony about the Steele dossier, where he says things like, oh, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know where it came from. And I can assure you that it wasn't in it played no role in the 2017 intelligence community assessment. He just looked right in the camera and said that.
We have that. Let me play that, Matt, and then you pick it up on the back end. So here's Brennan telling Congress the CIA did not rely on the Steele dossier. This is from May of 2017, as now the Republican-controlled House Intel Committee is looking into this obviously bogus January 17 ICA report. And again, we are just now getting our hands on that House Intel Committee report, which was buried in a safe at Langley until President Trump just intervened. So they were doing an investigation, a real investigation into how this BS wound up in this ICA. And they called Brennan, Obama's CIA director, to testify. And keep in mind now, this is Brennan knows, but we don't, that he has been warned by multiple CIA agents under him that this is bullshit. We should not include this aspirational point in this report, and we definitely should not include the Steele dossier. And his response was, but it has the ring of truth. That feels like it has the ring of truth, doesn't it? And here's what he testified, knowing all that to Congress under oath, SOT 17.
Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings, applications, petitions, pleadings?
I have no awareness.
Did the CIA rely on it?
No,
Why not?
because we didn't. It wasn't part of the corpus of intelligence information that we had. It was not in any way used as a basis for the intelligence community assessment that was done. It was not.
Go ahead, Matt.
If you look closely at that video, you can see his lip trembles sort of uncontrollably at the end of that statement. That's what lying looks like. It's not a matter of dispute that the Steele dossier was in this report. It was in the so-called classified annex that was declassified in 2020. So he's saying this in 2017. It wasn't known for sure until 3 years later, but everybody kind of guessed that it was in there. So he said that, and he gave multiple interviews to the news media, and I believe he testified on other occasions that it was not part of the ICA. So, look, they deflected constantly about this thing, and they always suggested that they had more that they weren't showing. When you see under the hood and you get this quote, and we have to remember this is an unnamed source. There's no way to confirm this, but the analysts who did this report are basically promising that they would be able to produce this witness if asked to. But apparently somebody heard Brennan say, "Yeah, but doesn't it have the ring of truth?" And that is exactly the kind of behavior that got us in trouble in Iraq and multiple other episodes. So it's crazy stuff.
It's not just Brennan either. Comey, of course, is one of the main villains here. And he, too, the FBI knew just as well as the CIA that the Steele dossier was a made-up document by someone hired to do dirty work for Hillary Clinton. And yet, this was making the rounds on X the other day. Here's James Comey. This is April of 2018. All right, we just saw this is what lying looks like. John Brennan in 2017, May of 17. He knew it was bullshit. His analysts had come to him saying, "Don't put that in there, for the love of God, ring of truth." And it wound up in the annex. Comey knew too. Here's Comey in April of 18 on ABC News, still pushing the allegations that were in the Steele dossier as though they're legit. Watch.
If there's even a 1% chance my wife thinks that's true, that's terrible. And I remember thinking, how could your wife think there's a 1% chance you were with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow? I'm a flawed human being, but there's literally zero chance that my wife would think that was true. So what kind of marriage to what kind of man does your wife think there's only a 99% chance you didn't do that? And I said to him, "Sir," when he started talking about it, "I may order you to investigate that." I said, "Sir, that's up to you, but you'd want to be careful about that because it might create a narrative that we're investigating you personally. And second, it's very difficult to prove something didn't happen."
Did you believe his denial?
Honestly, never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but I don't know whether the current president of the United States was with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow in 2013. It's possible.
Oh, he's such a scoundrel, Matt.
Yeah, and we have to remember that the material that eventually came out in the Justice Department Inspector General's report about the Steele dossier in 2019 showed that the FBI already knew as early 2017 that there were serious problems with that report, that the most crucial elements of it, like the P tape, like the allegations of sexual blackmail, that they were made in, quote, jest with friends over beers, and that these were just conversation, that it was internet rumor. All of this stuff had already been gathered by post factum by FBI investigators early in 2017. So they knew that this story wasn't true. They had very solid evidence that the entire thing was a problem. They had already fired Steele as a source for lying to them about talking to the media. So for them to go out on a limb about this story that they knew had no backing is incredible, frankly.
Since President Trump was sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress at a breakneck pace. But don't forget, while they're moving mountains for the good of the nation, you've got your own personal savings to worry about. And one of the best ways to look after your savings is through diversification, particularly with gold, like from Birch Gold Group. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 40%. OMG. Central banks continue to bolster demand for gold by buying in record quantities. Global instability and tension is high, and Birch Gold makes owning physical gold extremely easy. Easily convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or buy some to store in your home safe. Just text MK to the number 989898 and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of your savings today. Text MK to the number 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.